Carmen Geha. She's in Boston, Massachusetts, an associate professor at the American University of Beirut. Carmen, welcome to the program. Could I just ask you, just give us some information about the Lebanese forces that Hezbollah says started the shooting on Thursday? Who are LF? And if it was indeed them that was shooting, why would they choose now to shoot at a group of protesters that have been called out by Hezbollah?
Well, thank you so much for telling Lebanon's story. Today is a day of mourning. It is another day of mourning that would have been completely preventable. Lebanon is not experiencing a humanitarian disaster that came on its own. It is experiencing a disaster that was man-made, and the World Bank said that. Lebanese forces reportedly sent snipers to shoot at protesters yesterday. However, for many of us and for the families of the victims of the Beirut port explosion, yesterday was not just a tragic distraction, but it was also something very predictable. This is how militias operate. This is how they escape impunity. And this is how they derail us from the main demand and the main story, which is that there is a very competent, very brave judge in Lebanon for the first time handling the investigation and calling to question public officials. And these public officials with political parties like Hezbollah are refusing even to send their ministers into questioning. And this is the story here. This is the story of a post-war country that lives only because there is an amnesty for war crimes. All of Lebanon's politicians and public officials are former warlords who were rewarded by being given access to political parties and weapons and public office. And today they are ruling. It's either them or they burn down the country. And we've seen this scenario before. We refuse it. We will not be swayed. We want the truth in the investigation of the Beirut port blast, no matter who committed that atrocity, and we will not be derailed. And what you saw yesterday was derailing. This was hooligans, young men with guns that went down to the street, that were met with other young men with guns, both sectarian and both attempting to distract people's struggle for justice into the Beirut port explosion. And we refuse that.
Do you think the dangers of escalation are very much tied to the investigation into the blast at Beirut port, or might there be escalation regardless of what happens with that investigation?
Hezbollah has been very clear that this escalation is due to their being unhappy with the judge and the way that the investigation is going. Al-Akhbar newspaper publishes daily content that is igniting sectarian tension, that's demonizing the judge, demonizing people like me who support this process, who say, let's give it a chance. Why should there be any public official? I'm not sure, how much of your audience know about the Beirut port explosion, but I believe that the world watched an entire city basically fall to the ground because of corruption, mismanagement, negligence, and investigating into the cause of that explosion is today the only hope that Lebanon has to get back on the pathway to stability and recovery. There can be no reform with impunity because we have tried this model before. In 1989, the civil war ended, granting amnesty for crimes, and all of those men that committed all of those mass crimes came into office. They put on a suit, including LF, including the Free Patriotic Party, all of them. Any name of any party today is so vile, is so full of blood and harm and disaster. And today they are governing. And today they're telling us, look, if you want stability, you want us not to burn the country, leave us, stop the investigation. And we'll not accept this because we will not let Lebanon go into another 50 years of being governed by warmongering, incompetent tyrants who can't even pick up the garbage. The country has electricity shortages. You know what that means? It means kids are dying because there's not ventilators. It means cancer patients are dying. There's no fuel on the street. My dad needs to wake up every day at 4 in the morning to go fill his car. But look at the guns. Look how much guns are in the hands of a bunch of hooligans terrorizing people in their homes. This is the struggle today. It's not a small one, but we believe that will not stop until the investigation into the port explosion yields some results. What happened on August 4 last year is not okay. And they cannot take out, this is textbook. I look at the visions on your show. This is textbook tyranny. This is Syria, this is Iraq, this is Afghanistan. This is textbook. None of us are surprised that they did this yesterday.
Carmen, because of what happened yesterday, the pressure therefore increases on the investigation. Who has the ultimate power in Lebanon to decide whether the investigation carries on or whether it is stopped completely? Because that person who has that power is under immense pressure because of what happened on Thursday.
the person with the guns has the pressure, has the ability to stop this, obviously. And the person with guns and power has the ability to import explosives and store them near our homes. Like Imogen was saying, Lebanese people have almost zero trust in the government and in judiciary, but seeing what Judge Bitar is doing, his competence, his bravery, his consistency is giving people hope. And that is what we want today. And that is the process that we are trying to trust so that we get out of these ugly images of burning down yet another country and causing yet another wave of mass immigration and yet another generation of malnourished children like we have in Yemen. Enough. I think it's enough. We know who can stop the investigation. It's the men with the guns. But we also know that we can take a collective stance and say that it is time for Lebanon to see some justice and to see some stability. And the more that they do these kind of incidents, the more we become perseverant in our demand for justice, because our lives are basically over, right? We're done. I mean, Lebanese people's lives, future, money, savings, our families, it's over. So we're not scared. And we're going to keep on saying, we want to know what happened and why there were ammonium nitrate near our homes. There is no other struggle that is worth our time and effort. And the more that they demonize the judge, the more we're convinced he's doing the right thing.
Carmen, thank you so much indeed for joining us. Very much appreciated. Carmen Geha speaking from Boston, but she's from the American University of Beirut.